and welcome to Candidates Up Front. This is a public interest election program from Berks Community Television and the League of Women Voters of Berks County. I'm Judith Cranus, a member of the League. Our May 17th primary election is coming up, and because of redistricting following the census, there are new districts and many candidates. The primary election is when the main political parties, the Democrats and the Republicans, choose their candidates. You must be registered to vote as a Democrat or a Republican to choose your party's candidate. The deadline to register is May 2nd. We are interviewing candidates in contested races, and that means a contest within the party. In each election district, the candidates will get the same basic questions and have the same amount of time to answer them. There are 4 Republicans running and competing in the 6th Congressional District: Guy Cherokee, Steve Finelli, Regina Morrow, and Ron Vogel. And the winner will compete with Democrat Chrissy Houlihan in the fall. This district is the southern section of Berks County, including the city of Reading all the way down to New Morgan. Now, the House of Representatives, that's where Congresspeople serve, proposes and passes federal laws, which must also be approved by the U.S. Senate. They act on domestic and international issues. Members of the House serve 2-year terms and earn $174,000 per year, plus benefits and expenses. And we ask you to note that the opinions expressed in the interview are those of the candidate and not necessarily those of the League of Women Voters or of Berks Community Television. Our interviewee this time is Guy Cherokee. Welcome.
Good morning. Thanks for having me, Judith.
And please tell our viewers about yourself and why you're running.
Well, my candidacy really comes out of the last 2 years. I didn't intend to be a candidate for office, but the last several years I served as president of the Chester County Chamber, and of course I'm a parent and have been coaching Little League for now 23 years. And my candidacy really stems out of those experiences. As a chamber president, I saw what had happened to our small businesses and saw what had happened to our communities that were served by our small businesses. And you couldn't help but be moved by what happened to them. The way that they one day were thriving and then shut down. And at the same side with our students. Again, as a parent, but also as a Little League coach, I saw what was happening to the kids, how they were closed out of school and how that was harming them academically and emotionally. So I felt compelled to step forward, to be the voice for those kids and their parents, to be the voice for those small businesses, to be the voice to say that we need thriving small businesses, not simply for our economy, although that's certainly important, but for our communities, because without small businesses there are no communities, and we need to look out for our kids. And I offer to the voters a different candidacy, and that is someone who has worked in the community, given back to the community, but also served in government. I was Chief of Staff to Congressman Gerlach and Chief of Staff to the Lieutenant Governor. So I understand how government works, and I also understand when government lets us down. And I think I can combine that real-world experience with the government experience to be an effective voice for our values to help turn things around in our community.
Thank you. Are there any particular goals that you want to accomplish?
I think the most important things we need to do is to help our economy. We need to get our small businesses back up and running. And I think that we have to make sure that we have to take what a lot of us have done in our families or businesses, and we have to take that into account. In other words, what are the lessons learned? There are some regulations that were imposed on our small businesses the last 2 years, and we need to peel them back. At the same time, there are small businesses that never got the aid and support they needed, and we need to make sure that they're helped. So the first thing I want to do is hopefully serve as a member of the Small Business Committee in Congress and get our small businesses up and running. Because as I said, it's not just about the economy. Most of us get up every day and work for a small business. As president of the chamber, I ran a small business. But they're also part of our community. It's where our volunteers come from. It's where many of us get our first jobs. It's how we rebuild our society. So that's my primary focus and what I want to try and do, because that helps not only our economy but our quality of life. And next is schools. I want to make sure that our schools are open and the children are there and they're learning the things they need to succeed. If I can work on those 2 things and contribute to turning things around, I would consider my first term a success.
Thank you. We have seen war devastation in the Ukraine. It's an issue on everybody's minds. And Americans, by and large, we want our nation to help, but we're concerned that military help could trigger a nuclear war. What do you think our nation should do? What should our nation not do to protect democracies abroad?
It's an important question. You can't help but be moved by the pictures we've seen over the last several weeks. All of us as human beings, as Americans, are moved by this. And I think we also feel a sense of anxiety and helplessness. So what can we do? I think we can do three things. One is we can help with humanitarian aid. That is whether we wish to contribute, those of us voluntarily, to church groups or social service organizations to make sure that there are the medical supplies and the food and safety net there for those folks. The other is there may come a point, as the President's indicated, where we may have Ukrainian refugees come here and we may have to open our homes or our communities to them. But the other is militarily. And I do think we need to be able to support the Ukrainian people. They want to fight back. What they're lacking are the supplies. And I think the role of the United States is to help people on the side of freedom and democracy to supply them. I think it's entirely appropriate. And our nation has a history of that, of aiding people fighting for freedom and democracy, for their own safety and their quality of life, to supply them with the planes or munitions they need to fight back. When they're willing to fight, we should be there for them. But I think the biggest issue out of this is to look forward and think about how did we get here and where do we need to be. And I think what we need to do is what we've learned over history. Not only Americans, but the world is a safer place when America's economy is strong and our military is strong. There's more stability in the world. When our enemies sense weakness, that's when problems occur. If we're strong economically and we're strong militarily, there's more calm in the world. We can protect ourselves and offer support to our allies. And that should be our focus going forward, to make sure we're in a position to be strong like that.
And should we always be working with allies in international affairs, or should we be going it alone?
So that's an interesting point, and I don't see it as an either or. I think the first obligation is to look out for Americans and our territory and our properties and our families. But we certainly do have important alliances, whether with our friends in NATO or the Japanese or the Australians or others around the world. I think we can do both. I think our alliances are built through not only military or political alliances, but shared values. There are nations around the world that have a support for the rule of law, democratic republicans, free elections, liberties as we know them. So it's both. First and foremost, the obligation is to take care of America and to take care of Americans. But next is to look with people who share our values, to share our ideals, and we should look to do that. And that's what we've done with things like NATO. But it is a two-way street. It's not the responsibility of Americans to solely protect Poland or Germany. It's our role to play a supporting role, an advisory role. So first and foremost our own, but second, support those who share our common views, our common values, and our common outlook on life. Together, if you will, the nations committed to liberty and freedom need to work together to ensure there's calm in the world.
We're going to shift to domestic question. Berks County is 50% agricultural.
Yeah.
Actually, this gets into international as well. But we know that our growing seasons have changed, and we know that our storms are much more destructive. Should the federal government be doing more to keep the planet habitable? And if so, what should it do?
So when you look at agriculture, there's all different segments of it. And Chester and Berks County are home to about 75% of the nation's mushrooms. So that's a whole different world because that's 24/7, 365. And we need to make sure that the markets are available in the nation and around the world to our mushroom products. And that's important in terms of trade, and that's important to the quality of life of those people that work there and supply them.
But let's get back to the climate issue that's impacting all of this.
Sure, I think to the other agricultural issues, I think what the role the United States can play from a government is to make sure that we're making sure that there's information available to farmers. Most farmers are able to adapt when they're given the information and the tools necessary to adapt to growing seasons, to adapt to changes in the climate, to changes in water availability and water flow. I think the greatest role the U.S. government can play is providing accurate data so that farmers working together, whether they're in the dairy field or corn or grain or whatever it might be, that they have the information that they need to plant and advise accordingly. And then, of course, we have to be good stewards of the environment. We have to make sure that our water is clean, our air is clean, so that we can grow the crops, so that we can be healthy. it's both an economics issue, but it's also a quality of life issue, and I think that we can do both successfully.
We have seen the expense of all these destructions caused by nature, whether it's the flooding, the fires, the tornadoes, just mounting and mounting and mounting. And yet we also know there's an expense to reducing carbon emissions. How do you play those two against each other or with each other?
Yeah, it's not easy, but many things I think you struck on it, Judith, which is we need to find a balance. It's not an either or. It's not an idea that we either we should not be so hyper-focused on the environment that we ruin the economy. We should not be so focused on the economy that we're willing to ruin the environment. And I think there are examples of it. We've done a good job in Chester County of maintaining open space and protecting agriculture while at the same time being good stewards of the environment. So I think there are models in place in order to do it. And as you touched on, they're all interconnected. It is about our quality of life. It's about our economy. You can't have a thriving economy if you have a bad environment. You can't sustain the environmental protections you need unless you have a good economy. So I think that the more that we look at these things as intertwined and focused on quality of life, and the less we look at it as an either or. I think there's a danger when we pose it as either or, because then it's a suggestion there are winners and losers. I think what we need to do is what we approach it even from the chamber, which is good environment, good stewardship of water, air, and land presents good economy. And you need a thriving economy to pay for the things necessary to make sure that our quality of life and air quality is good.
Just very quickly, is climate change affecting our national security?
I don't know that it's affecting our national security any more than the environment is part of our quality of life, and we have to be responsible stewards of water, air, and land. We need to be making sure that our water quality is good. We need to make sure that our land is available to be farmed or lived on. So it's a part of a national security in the sense that it's part of our quality of life. Again, that's why I don't think it's an either or, and I don't think that we should look at it as either we're helping our economy or our quality of life. It's both. A strong economy requires a good quality of life, and I think we need to do both.
We need to move on to our next question. It will be short at the end. Women have been hugely impacted by the pandemic, and lack of child care is one of those factors. What will you advocate for in Congress to help women do their two roles as moms and employees?
It's an important question because one of the things we realized that I saw firsthand as a chamber president, but also as a Little League coach, the girls I coach are now 12. When I first began coaching them, they were 10. One of the things certainly that had unintended consequences was closing schools for an extended time and then having periodic reopenings and closings. It created instability. It didn't allow people to plan their work schedules, and it really hurt small businesses and families. So one of the things I'll be advocating for is making sure that schools remain open, that closing schools should be a last resort so that people can plan their days. The second is in terms of daycare. We need to make sure that our daycares are open. And again, daycares, like everything else in society, need to be provided the information they know so they can stay open. I mean, the practical reality is, particularly for moms, but for all of us with families, is that the schools opening and closing and the different evolving standards for safely reopening and closing cause interruptions. And when daycares close or schools close, people couldn't go to work. So we need to know now, based on the evidence that we have and the data we have, we know that most of those places can stay open most of the time, and that will allow for predictability so people can plan their days. Now that we're into 2022, we now know how to do this better. So my advocacy will be focused on returning life to normal and making sure those institutions are up and running and safe so that people can plan their lives accordingly, particularly for our small businesses that are least able to afford interruptions in our daily lives.
And very quickly again, equal pay for equal work is still a myth. Women make far less than men do, and white women do better than black women or Hispanic women. And those are the women who most need child care. So how can we deal with the fact that their earnings aren't what they need to be to afford child care?
So child care should be largely looked at, I think, through a local prism because of a large, diverse nation with different standards of living, be it in Los Angeles or in Wyoming, let alone just the differences in Pennsylvania from rural to local. There's no doubt that child care is an important part. One, child care helps allow people to go to work, and two, good child care and preschool programs help our children learn human interaction, but also academically. So I learned that, firsthand as a dad. I've also learned that as a chamber president in Interconnection. So I will be an advocate for those things, but I really think that we want to avoid the federal government playing an overhanded role, because we don't want to over-regulate, and we also don't want to try and come up with a way where Los Angeles and Wyoming and Berks County are all by the same standards. But as a chamber president, I'll always be mindful, as a dad, the important role that child care plays. Our children went to daycare. It's how my wife and I were able to both work.
Thank you. Our last question, it's a little bit unusual. We have noted that the preamble to our national constitution says we unite to promote the general welfare and secure the blessings of liberty. So we thought we would look at those two ideals as opposite ends of a continuum and ask you, where on that line do you see yourself? And I'm thinking in the sense of, we know we have free speech, but that does not allow us to call fire in a crowded theater unless there's really a fire, and that's the communal welfare end of that. So in whatever issues you would like to bring up, where do you feel you fit on that spectrum? And it could differ issue to issue.
Yeah, it's an interesting question. I mean, my initial response is that they are not polar opposites. They're part of a continuum. You can't have general welfare without liberty. I think the last 2 years, as I said at the outset of this program, the last 2 years have greatly impacted me. And so I think my answer today is perhaps different than it would have been 3 years ago. And that is, I think we err on the side of liberty. And I think that when we allow people to run their businesses and run their lives, that gives them an opportunity to succeed. And I think the role of the government is to make sure that all children have access to quality education, and that everybody has the opportunity to get up and go to work in the morning, and having had the education to be successful, and that we keep rules and regulation and taxes to a reasonable level so that people can succeed. I think when you focus on liberty and allow people to flourish and allow people to succeed, that promotes the general welfare. As I've often said, you don't measure the compassion of a society by how many people get government aid. We measure the compassion of society by how many people don't need government aid, how many children are able to succeed, how many people are able to start businesses, how many people will go to work. If we do those things well, we promote liberty and the general welfare. They're really a balance, and they need each other. But I'm certainly much more on the liberty side than I was even 3 years ago.
We have about 40 seconds for you to make a closing statement.
And I'll take out my 40-second answer. I would share with the voters of Berks County and throughout the 6th District that I understand what we're all feeling. We feel anxiety and anxiousness. We feel as though the economy's out of control. Some of our basic standards and tenets as a nation are being questioned, and we feel the world's a less safe place. There are a number of people running for Congress. Respectfully, I submit to you that as a chamber president, a dad, as a Little League coach, as someone that's worked in government, I have an understanding of not only the problems, but a path forward. Because it's not enough to complain about why things are the way they are. You have to offer a path forward. And I offer an experienced path forward that focuses on empowering parents and helping small businesses get up and running and allowing people to succeed. I want to take a lifetime of experience to be a voice for sanity and common sense and a rebirth of our community and our nation. And I'd appreciate your support in the opportunity to do that. And you can learn more about me at ourguyforcongress.com. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Mr. Shiraki, for sharing your message with our VCTV voters. Before we close, I want to remind our viewers that there are other candidates in this race, and I encourage you to watch their interviews as well, so you're fully informed when you vote. If you are not sure of your voting status, go to votepa.gov. You can register to vote, change your party, locate your polling place, or apply for an absentee or mail-in ballot. Then check the League's online voters guide, vote411.org, to confirm your district and get more information on the candidates. If you still have election questions, Berks County Election Services will help. You can email them at elections@countyofberks.com or phone them at 610-478-6490. And for information about our new districts and all voting issues, do watch League of Women Voters presents Ready, Set, Vote. That will be on BCTV beginning April 12th. Thank you for watching Candidates Up Front. I'm Judith Cranus. Good day.